Hi, everybody. It's Joe Cioffi. Got a late night tonight, so got home a little bit late. Just kind of giving a quick look to the new GFS, which is not completely out yet for its entire run. So I'll show you on the video what I have, and I'm going to keep it short tonight. We'll do a longer one Friday morning when we have all the overnight models. Looks like the GFS might have been a shade further, a little bit further south than its prior run, but it still remains consistent within itself. The European today has been consistent from its last several runs, taking a track much further south and a bigger threat for the Leeward Islands and perhaps the Greater Antilles going forward. There's still no real consensus as to whether there's going to be a threat to the U.S. down the road. That's too far out in the long range, but we're just going to have to just sit back and wait. One of the things that's happened today, when we take a look at Irma on the satellite, you're going to notice the eye is still there. It's just slightly a little more ragged than what it looked like earlier today when it hit its peak, and there's a reason, and I have a water temperature map that I'm going to show you where Irma is now. It's in slightly cooler water, so it might be able to maintain itself since the structure of the hurricane is very sound. It should be able to maintain its strength. Maybe it might weaken a little bit, but in the next 48 hours, it will be moving back out. Once it gets west of 45 degrees west, the water temperatures warm back up again to over 28 C, and that is going to be enough to juice it up, and I think it is going to become a major hurricane as indicated by the Hurricane Center and their forecast and by most of the models that are out there. So we'll get this going for you, so just stand by 1 second and I'll set it up. So here we go. All right, let's take a look at Hurricane Irma, which I think kind of peaked out in intensity a bit back late this afternoon. You still have an eye that's fairly visible, but you notice the structure here is just a little bit more ragged than it has been. It doesn't look that it hasn't deteriorated much, but it hasn't continued its strengthening trend. So I think the Hurricane Center indicated that tonight that the strengthening has stopped for now, and that makes sense. If we look at where the eye is, it's getting close to about 18 north and 36 west. And I'm going to punch up the global the sea surface temperatures at 18 and 36. Irma's located right in this area here, and if you notice that the 28 degrees Celsius water is just to the south of it now. It's sitting in this little band of cooler water, and that's probably going to keep it. It may be able to maintain its intensity. It might even weaken a little bit, but not much, judging by its structure. But once it gets west of about 45 degrees west, especially when it begins that turn more to the west-southwest, it's going to be getting into much warmer waters that lie west of 45 degrees west. You can see all the water here is 28 degrees Celsius or higher. Colors are a little strange to look at, but here, this is South America. So, all the colored areas are the actual water areas, and here are the islands. So you've got 28 degrees Celsius water here, and then once you get west of 60 and you start to get into 65, and then you're talking about 29 and 30 degrees Celsius water. And this is the area in here that that the GFS anyway was strengthening this to a Category 5 hurricane. The other thing I want to take a look at tonight too is the water vapor imagery, because this upper low that's sitting up here well to the northwest of Irma, which is there, and it still hasn't gotten out of the way. It was forecast to move off to the northwest. It hasn't quite done so yet. It's made a little bit of progress westward, but not very much. It might actually be even moving more west-southwest here, judging from the last 6-hour loop that we see. It's not creating any wind shear conditions. The upper low is not huge. It's a little smaller in scope than some of the other upper lows that we've seen, but it is forecast to get out of the way. So we'll see what happens as we move through Friday and into Saturday. And here's the Hurricane Center's latest forecast track. Really, it just pretty much follows the same one from before, where they keep it at a major hurricane, and then take that course west-southwest, and then gradually turn it west, and then north of west toward the end of the period. And it's in this area, it's at this point here that we start to see it strengthening again, where they bring it up to 120 knots, which would be a Category 4 hurricane. Now, we have a limited amount of the new GFS run, so we only have out to day 5. So let's see where the GFS takes it, at least out through the 5th day. So there's this is Friday morning, and actually it already turns to the west by Friday afternoon, according to the GFS, and then starts moving west-southwest, or at least south of west, Friday night into Saturday morning. This is Saturday night. Now we're at 2 a.m. Sunday, still moving southwestward. Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. 2 p.m. 8 p.m. on Sunday. Here we are at 2 a.m. Monday, and at 8 a.m. Monday. Now it looks like the motion between those last two frames is a little more westerly. 8 p.m. Tuesday, and at this point we're down to 951 millibars, which would be a rather strong Category 3 hurricane. And by Tuesday morning, we're starting to move more west-northwest. And here we are at 126 hours. And it looks like at this point, this is a Category 4 hurricane, and it's east of the northern Leeward Islands. Now, let's just go back and look where it was on the prior run. I'll go back 2 runs. And, you know, it looks like it might be, it's close. Might actually, if you look from the 18Z to the 6Z, I'm sorry, to the 0Z, which is the new run, it's south of the prior position. So the GFS may be trending here a little bit further south than its prior runs. By the way, there's the low that's behind it. It is trying to attempt to spin up something to the south and east of Irma. I don't know if there's how much room there is for this. It keeps the system weak on this particular run, whereas on the prior run it had a small but slightly more developed system further southeast. Maybe there was more room at that point. The expanding outflow of Irma is going to give this system a bit of a tough time. So for now, let's not pay too much attention to this, and we'll focus on Irma. And I'll go a little bit tighter. I think we can go on the North Atlantic view at this point, because it does come into range here. So we do have out to 132 hours. It looks like on the GFS at this point, if I scroll it back just a little bit, put the frame higher. This is from Monday evening. It looks like, you know, it's going to pass north of the Leeward Islands, at least per the GFS. It might be a little bit further south on that prior position, but this is 2 runs back, and here's 1 run back, so it doesn't look too much different. And here's the current run, so it is south of the last 2 runs. I can't go any further than this with regards to trying to see where it's going to wind up. Otherwise, I'll be up all night. But for the most part, at least the model seems to be trending south. Now, if we'll go back, I'll go back to look at the European from today, which, you know, the European has been remarkably consistent with its view. And here it is. I'll go back. I want to match up the same runs because we're missing. It comes out every 24 hours, so we're going to match 12Z to 12Z. so that we're looking at the same thing. Here's the 12Z from yesterday. Okay, and let me just scroll it back so we can start from the beginning. Here is the 12Z run today. Very consistent, and actually the 12Z was even, yeah, very consistent. It really has not varied very much at all. I want to even go back. Let's go back to 12Z Tuesday and see what we got here. May not go too far. It actually has come further south and west from the run from 12Z Tuesday. So there's 12Z Tuesday. Here's 12Z Wednesday. And here's 12Z today. From Wednesday to Thursday, it's almost the same. So the European has maintained a certain degree of consistency. The GFS has maintained its own consistency, but it's just been doing it further north. And when we'll look at the upper air real fast here, there's that upper ridge. And you see on the European how the upper high migrates westward at the with Irma. You see, here's Irma. Here's the upper high, and it's migrating westward with Irma toward the southeast coast of the United States. The GFS, as we go back, and I'll use the 18Z run because that at least will take us, through similar time frames. Notice the ridge on the where is it? There we go. Look at the difference between the ridge, though. The ridge does not build back into the southeast the way the European has it. The GFS has the bottom of a very deep trough here into the southeastern part of the United States. And by the way, that's another thing I want to show you. Since the trough in the east is going to be very important, let's go back a few runs. 18Z Wednesday, 0Z Thursday, 6Z Thursday, 12Z Thursday. This is all for the same time frame, by the way, which would be next Thursday at 2 in the afternoon. Here's the 18Z. Did you just notice how each one was so different in terms of the trough, in terms of the structure of the trough? This is why we have a big problem with looking at these models when they go out beyond the 5th or 6th day. The variation in the trough and the whole upper pattern gets wider and wider. And in fact, if I go back, I'm going to just for laughs, I'm going to go back to Monday. Look at the difference between Monday and how deep the trough was forecast to be for Thursday, September 7th, and look at what it's forecasting from late this afternoon. So we have enough. The bottom part of this trough is fractured and cut off away. It's a totally different look from that run from 4 days ago. So this is why we don't really focus too much. We don't. The further out we go in time, the much more difficult the forecast is. Anyone that can tell you, from here precisely where Irma is going to wind up, they're just guessing. We have to continue to just march through time and see what happens when we get there. Just real fast, here are the remnants of Harvey continuing to edge slowly northeastward. Looks like it will bring some rain to parts of the northern mid-Atlantic and the northeast Saturday night. Hopefully by Sunday morning it'll be out of the way so we can salvage Sunday afternoon. And Monday's going to be a very warm, humid day throughout much of the northeast and mid-Atlantic states until we wait. Okay, so I decided to come back. I'm just looking at the new GFS, and I'm going to try and load the models into this program so this way I can pop them up while I'm talking live. But it just takes time for me to do that, and I haven't had it. The new run is out far enough at this point where it has it just approaching the outer banks of North Carolina, and it looks like it wants to barrel it up the East Coast. I'm going to just look at the upper air here. Yeah, I mean, the upper air on the GFS would certainly suggest something coming in to the North Carolina coast, or maybe a little bit further north than that. But certainly, GFS has been trending westward with every run, so that is important because the GFS likes to do that. It likes to start off with these tracks that are much further east, and then as we get closer and closer in time, it starts doing this slow dance westward. It went from Nova Scotia to Portland, Maine, to southeastern New England, just east of eastern Long Island. We had one run last night that kind of wanted to bring it right up up the Hudson River. Now on tonight's run, it looks like it wants to bring it into coastal North Carolina. Let me see if the surface is out far enough. And by the way, it does have it as a major Category 4 hurricane when it does that. This is, no joke if this winds up being true. But look, we've got a long, long way to go on all this. I honestly think, judging from what the upper air is doing in the eastern part of the United States, that the idea of taking it into the Gulf of Mexico seems to me to be a bit of a long shot. I think the only way that would happen is if that ridge off the East Coast builds all the way back westward and builds at the same time as Irma is moving closer to the coastline. That's probably the only way, you're going to get this to go out into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. That's going to be the big, the two keys. The initial key is that ridge. Let's see how far south it gets. And then once it gets west of 60, we're going to have to start focusing on the strength and the position of the trough in the east to see where that, where ultimately Irma is going to wind up. But, no doubt the models, one of the things is, regardless of whether, where the track is, we do know that this is going to be a major hurricane because the models have been very consistent on that idea. And I'm just looking now where we have, a Category 4 hurricane going into Chesapeake Bay on this run. Look, tomorrow morning, I'm going to take a look at the run that follows this one, and I'm going to look at the European, and we're going to have a whole new conversation. So again, I've said this many times, the variability beyond the fifth day is very high. Do not, I would not put a lot of faith in what I'm seeing right at this point, because we are still a good week away. Remember, the GFS I'm looking at is day 9. All right, this is next Sunday. Okay, we are at Friday here, so we are talking 9 days more of watching this. Let's wait. We get through the weekend. We're going to start to see the models begin to converge, because then we'll be inside day 7. We'll start to gain a little more confidence as to what this is doing and where this may ultimately wind up. But certainly we have we may have quite the system here, quite the hurricane, if these models continue to go in the direction that they are going. Okay, so look, let's call it a night. Thank you for being here tonight. I'll have some website posts up in the morning on meteorologistjoecioffi.com, and my compatriot Angry Ben will be on nycweathernow.com. Thank you, Today's Opinion, for hitting the super chat. I really appreciate that very much. Thank you. Yeah, almost gets me a cigar. I'm just going to type you a formal thank you for hitting the super chat for a couple of bucks. Thanks again. Oh, it's Cyan. Cyan, you can't be doing that all the time. I appreciate it, but you don't have to do that all the time. Thank you. I know, Tyree. You could watch it on the replay because it'll be going up. Well, I haven't had one yet, Cyan. I'll take a look at your page in the morning when I got a clear head. Okay, promise. Thank you, Karina. I appreciate you being here. All of you guys that have been coming here on a regular basis, thank you. So look, next live stream will be, I'll try to shoot for 11 a.m. Eastern, but you know what? If it turns out I may have to do it a little bit earlier, I'll post the time up in the morning when I have a good idea what my schedule is going to be like. And we'll see what the European does. One last check of the GFS. If it's, yep, I mean, this is really right up Chesapeake Bay, northwestward into upstate New York. Raymond, you're not on tonight. You'll love this run. Okay, let's again remember. Let's not go. Nobody go off the deep end over this. We're still 9 days away. Okay, and a lot is going to change in the next 5 or 6 days in terms of what these models are going to do. We'll see you in the morning, and have a great night.